So welcome everyone. Let's get started. I'm really excited to have you here. And again, for the people who just arrived, this is a webinar format and I'd like you to communicate with me via the question button on the bottom of your screen. Put any questions in there throughout the session and we will have more of a longer conversation at the end. So my plan today is on the screen. You can see this is sort of roughly what we're going to cover in an hour. I'm going to talk a little bit about why this subject is important to me and a little bit about my story. And hopefully we can decipher some principles around navigating the unknown in that story. Then I like to give you a bit of an experience of one of the principles that I'm talking about. So you can actually apply some of that learning and the things I talk about. And then we have a bit of time to look at some of the questions and have a bit more of a conversation. So I like to start with actually wanting to hear a bit about what you are actually expecting here. So please use the Q&A button on the bottom and put a question in and write for me what is it that you are expecting. Why did you come to the seminar? I'd like to hear just a few snippets from you on why you're here. You can also raise a hand if you have any questions, if you want to talk. I can also help you to communicate, but for now, just put it into the question button. Why are you here? I'd just like to see some comments. Right. Hello, Lisa. To conduct multiple focus groups and workshops after methodology. So you're looking after some methodology for the facilitation of that. I see. Wonderful. Any other, so in the Q&A button, yeah, any other expectations? Not really. So you can keep them coming, any question in the QA. I like to start with an acknowledgement of country. So I'm a Saxon woman. I was born in the state of Saxony in Germany. And I'm standing today on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation here in Kew in Melbourne. And I like to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. And I'm really grateful for the work they have done so I can stand here in this country and enjoy that country that is here. I also like to acknowledge that we are living in a changed and changing climate, and the systems and behaviors that are causing that change and how it affects everything we do and how it really focuses our urgency in this particular part of our lifetime. So who am I? I would say for 30 years, I've been a coach, I've been a facilitator, I train facilitators, I'm a corporate facilitator doing team development and culture change. But who am I really? I'm really an unshakable optimist in human potential. And I see myself as a future designer for collective human potential because I'm super passionate about what we can do as a collective if we are facilitating that well. And what do? You know how senior leaders struggle with the speed and complexity of change. And they're really starting to worry that they can't fulfill their leadership promise within this environment. So I use leadership development and team development programs to help senior leaders, to help their organization to improve their way of collaboration and to create a sustainable collaborative culture that constantly innovates and is agile for change. So navigating the unknown is a big part in that and how to really become sustainable in the way we're working and moving forward. So why is that important to me? So I want to talk about my story. I want to tell you my story and what I've learned on my journey around navigating change. I like if you could raise your hand on your button on the bottom. Can I just see who here experiences fear when it comes to the unknown? Fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot of hands going up. Yeah, it's scary, right? And what we are doing when it comes to the unknown, the instant result is that we either freeze or we go back to what we know. So this is about a different approach. Like, how can we become more confident when it comes to the unknown? So I was born in East Germany behind the Berlin Wall, and I was 16 when the Berlin Wall came down. And that was probably the most significant moment in my life where I was completely thrown into the unknown. And not just me, that was my family, my school, my friends, my entire community, my entire country that I knew as my home was thrown into the unknown. The doors opened to a world that was close to us for centuries, 40 years. And it was projected on this evil thing out there. So there was a significant change for me. And the effect of that, grow in me quite a lot of resilience to have to work through this and to find ways to work with the unknown. And it also has opened up for myself to a lot of potential. And that's one of the principles of the unknown. It actually is super potent and has unlimited potential. We just don't see it yet. And I think when we focus our mindset from fear to potential, it's enormous fertile shift that we can do. So my experience was that my teachers were standing in front of me and saying, I don't know what to teach you, because the East German curriculum had a lot of communism in it, was not allowed anymore. So they're making it up. My parents, my elders in my community that were my leaders, had no idea what this new world was about. They could not show me the way to go. So I had to find my own way. And there's another of the principles in the unknown. It's like this using your attention to look, what could I do next? Finding next steps. So for me, it was a great opportunity because I was able to go to university. Now, I don't know how much you know about the communist system, but in communism, the state determines what you go to school for, what you work with, what you work in, what you can study, etc. So I was not allowed to study before the wall came down, and I was rejected, and I was looking for some apprenticeship. And the wall coming down was for me a fantastic opportunity to go to what I really wanted, to follow my own purpose, my own intention, and that was go and educate myself. So I studied adult education and learning, and this is where I experienced for the first time that for me it was really hard to retain knowledge. So I hit that moment in time where I almost was kicked out of university. And the reason for that was because there was one particular professor who wanted me to repeat what she has taught in her lectures, pretty much word for word. And I had no idea how that related to my life, what the purpose of that was, where do I apply it? And I'm quite a kinesthetic learner. I could not get it into my head. And so I realized that I really can't work with just retaining knowledge. And this is the moment when one of my big mentors came into my life, which was a professor from West Germany who brought a whole new sort of education system in. And he introduced me to the power of facilitation. He had small seminar groups, and he asked the students in the room how we relate to the subject. So that was when I first was really had this massive buy-in into learning. It's like, oh my God, my experiences, how I want to apply it, my reason for applying it, my purpose was wanted. There was not someone dictating me to learn something that I didn't want to learn. So that really sort of created a seed for me to be passionate about facilitation and the potential of bringing individuals in, and also to navigate the unknown. I could see him, he didn't know what was coming from the group, but we explored the subject together. And I was seeing the potency of that, of having everyone involved and accessing actually what I now understand is something called collective intelligence, which is something else that comes in when we are sharing our knowledge in a group. So I didn't leave university. I was actually able to finish and had my first contact to facilitation. Fast forwarding 30 years, I found myself in New Zealand discovering facilitation all over again. After a sort of a history and a career of working in adult learning, in training in organizations, I discovered facilitation with the organization called Zenergy in New Zealand and met another mentor, Dale Hunter, who I'm still really close to. And here I started. First of all, I discovered facilitation is actually a profession. It's like, oh my God, there's actually people out there who call themselves facilitators. There's actually a profession where you can learn the skills to become an effective facilitator. And I was like so enrolled instantly. That was in 2011. And I studied for a couple of years. I got my diploma. And then I decided that I have to teach this work and these skills to the world. And for the last 10 years, I've been running those facilitation programs. Now, my journey to become a master facilitator was not easy. It was really hard, in fact. And I want you to listen to this really, because it was a transformation from I'm the person who runs the group and knows it all to I don't know anything and I have to be in service to the group. I discovered that I really enjoyed control. I don't know. When I was in that responsibility of leading a group, I was controlling the agenda. I was controlling the timing. I was holding it all down so it doesn't gets over whatever it was. I was controlling like crazy. And one thing that really, really helped me, I think it was also the controlling to overcome the fear of the unknown, because working with groups is a very organic system. Can I have some hands up here again who find when they are working with groups that they often get lost in the unknown, in the complexity that comes back from groups? Can I just have some more hands again? Yeah, I think this is the biggest and hardest thing of a facilitator, to hold the space, to have an agenda, to have to deliver outcome, to have a certain time frame, and to have to work with a complexity of perspectives in the group. So the key that helped me was a shift in mindset. And that is another principle that I've learned. And the mindset that I was shifting was from I know it all to I don't know anything. And my mentor said to me, just think about that when you go into the facilitation. And I was faking out because I thought like, what? I'm here to know it all. These people look up to me. I'm leading the group. I need to know. Also had this sort of teacher identity and manager identity. And I see that exactly now with the clients I work with, the consultants, the facilitators, but also the senior leaders. They are paid to have the answers. They're not paid not to have the answers and not to know. So it's a really contrasting mindset, but so powerful when it comes to navigating the unknown. So I tried it and my ego didn't like it. I can tell you that. It was freaking out because the ego likes to know what's happening, right? And keeping us safe. But coming from a place of not knowing and trusting the environment and what comes is really counterintuitive to our ego. So it was the shifting to service. And what I discovered when I was just standing in the group, coming from, I really don't know anything here. My mind shifted to listening, to curiosity, to appreciation of perspectives that I normally would just completely, oppose. I was able to value differences. And I was able to trust the group. And what happened was that the group came to its own rhythm. And it drew more people in to contribute. And I was this invisible guide that intervened to bring people back to the purpose, but I did not intervene into the content of what they were talking about. I was in service to what the group needed to talk about to get to a resolution. Now, I know there have been some questions about what if a facilitator is engaged to bring the group to a certain outcome. That is really hard, and we can talk about that later. And I actually call that facilitation and not facilitation, because we are sometimes employed to manipulate the group to a certain outcome. Now, I will say a bit more about that, but I don't want to distract completely right now. So this journey has been really transformational, and there's been a lot of personal work I have been doing, and able to be available for the group and to be in that unknown. Now, over 10 years later, after doing a lot of facilitation, training a lot of people, I would call myself a master facilitator. Now, why do I do that? Or why do I think I'm finally a master? Now, I'm not saying I'm complete. I'm always learning and always growing, absolutely. But the area I really gained mastery around is around navigating the unknown when it comes to group facilitation. And the reason why I say that is that because I'm thriving in the unknown now. I go into a group and I just want to surf the wave and go with where the group wants to go and be so in service to the group's process and bring my knowledge in around group dynamics and collaboration and processes to help the group, but it's all in service. So it's called something, Otto Scharmer talked about that in the Theory U. It's called about working with emergence as well. So you're really present to what is emerging in the group, and then you work from what is important and what is coming up right now. So this is where I would love to help others to get to enjoy and thrive in the unknown, and to be able to lead complex change with the resources they have in themselves and with others, and to feel confidence that they can get through it. So, and a facilitator often is really good for holding these kind of spaces, because, and I talk about it more around what is facilitation, but when a facilitator is not involved in the content, the neutrality a facilitator holds creates a safe space for the group to do their own brainstorming, their own conflict resolution, their own work, whatever they need to do. And the facilitator doesn't know the detail, doesn't have to know the detail, but holds the space for the group to do this process. And because the facilitator is there, the group feels safe to say things that they would be able to say when there is not a facilitator in the room. So why is that really important to help in organizations to get more confident in navigating the unknown? Well, what happens? We talked about earlier about the fear. So if we are reaching the fear, we go back to business as usual. And this is really not changing the world or saving the planet. So I feel we have to become a new way of how we lead complex change. Now, there is a book, and I will have that on my PowerPoint resources, that I came across, called Dancing at the Edge. And he talks about leaders of tomorrow. And he makes this really amazing distinction that it's not about knowing what is right to do and what is wrong to do. Because when there is a change, look at COVID. There is no reference point of what is right and what is wrong. There are some reference points, but when it comes to this big change, there's a lot of no reference point on what is right or wrong. So it's not about knowing what to do, what's right. It is more about knowing what to do, how to do the right thing. I'll say this again to make it really clear. It's not about knowing what is right. It's about knowing what is the right thing. So that puts us in a whole different place in our body, right? Knowing what is right comes from our head. It's something that we have retained as knowledge, as experience that is right. Knowing what is the right thing I think sits more in our heart, because that links back to our own personal integrity, to our own personal moral code. And what that requires is that we are connected to ourselves and having a sense of self-awareness of how my action might affect others. So in navigating the unknown, it is important to be connected and present. And this is what we're going to talk a bit more about soon. And to sense what is the right thing. Can I have another set of hands here from people who have done something and their whole body knew it was not the right thing to do, and you did it anyway, and then you regretted it? Can I just see a few more hands? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So there is no way that you can say, I don't know, because our body does know when something is right or not, and in integrity with ourselves. So this is what I like to help people to become better at, to raise their self-awareness in their body. And this is what our facilitation trainings, they're all very much about applying the knowledge in the experience, so you can feel in your body what is the right intervention and when, and to learn how to improvise really, really quickly. So this was my story, and this is what I would like to share. Yeah, anyone here, can I get your hands up to see if you're interested in learning more about that? Yeah. So I have created a slide that I want to show with some of the principles that I've mentioned in my story. Yeah. So these are most of the principles that I worked with, or that I mentioned in the story. And I will send you those PowerPoints as well, or you can take a screenshot of it. Now, many of those principles, some things you can do easily. You can just remember to go into the mindset of I don't know. Particularly when you hit the unknown, just remember not to hold on to needing to know, but coming into a curiosity mindset. Other things you need to practice, and you need to get some guidance, some tools around that. So the next part I want to do is to talk about what is facilitation. So could I have some hands here who would be able to tell me what is facilitation? I can unmute you, and then we can talk. What is facilitation? Yeah, well, I got Cassie. You want to speak? Hello, Cassie. What is facilitation? You have to unmute yourself, and then you can talk. Yeah, cool. Thank you, Lisa. It's all about curiosity and being open to where discussion leads. Yeah, and yeah, Casey, no problem. Yeah, any other things? You can put it also in the Q&A. Or Ian, you want to speak? I can give you talking permission. There we go. What is facilitation? Yeah, or maybe you had a hand up earlier. Okay, so let me share my screen again to share what I think some of the key things are around facilitation. We had those principles. What is facilitation? There's three main principles that I really stress around what is facilitation. The key is that in the pure sense of facilitation, and we talked about there are many other ways facilitators are engaged, a facilitator is content neutral. that's their premise, that they come in to facilitate the process, to facilitate a conversation. They help the group to get to find, to achieve their purpose, right? And as soon as the facilitator brings some content, like I do today, for example, I'm a presenter, I'm not a facilitator, or I'm a trainer, not a facilitator. A facilitator is also the guardian of the purpose and the culture. And purpose and culture are the key things that need to be aligned when you work with a group and when you start navigating the unknown. If you don't have a purpose and a culture, then you don't know what the container is of the conversation and of the group engagement. So when you work with groups, and as also for the people who get engaged into doing work with the groups, I always get really clear with the client who pays me, what is the intended purpose of the engagement? And then you have to see, like, if the purpose is actually from the organization or from the group. But when you come into the group, you need to align that purpose with the group as well. It needs to be transparent. The outcomes to try to achieve need to be transparent and need to be, there needs to be a buy-in from the group to be okay, to be facilitated towards that purpose and that culture. So you're not the boss, the purpose and the culture is the boss. And that gives you, when you get lost and things get a bit steamy in the group, etc., it gives you a grounding. Okay, now hang on, what is it we try to achieve? Let's have a look at back to purpose. And what are some of the behaviors we agreed at the beginning of the course, of the workshop, how we're going to behave? These are your sort of reference points to navigate the unknown in the group. And the last thing as a facilitator is a process expert. So I will show you a lot of books at the end of the process where you can find lots and lots of processes. And this is where facilitator education comes in, where you can learn a lot of different types of collaborative processes and helping groups to be more collaborative and to set them up as a sustainable collaborative team. Okay, and the left is the facilitation model that we teach with Energy. There's lots more on it, but it's like a pyramid that has on the bottom that you have to facilitate yourself, you have to facilitate the individuals that come in, and you have to facilitate the group as a whole identity itself. And the pyramid is the container that you build. So there's a purpose why you're there and you're discovering that purpose, or you're having a purpose when you come in already. And there's a culture, and it can be in short meetings, just like the way we communicate. Like here, it's use the Q&A, put your hand up when you want to talk, etc. There's can be short. Sometimes when you talk about a culture development in a team, there has to be more of a conversation around the behavior so everyone can have a buy-in. The next part, I like to get you actually into action a little bit and give you something to experience. And that's talking about the aspect of presence and attention. So my experience, in order to navigate the unknown, you have to be enormously present. And what do I mean by that? It's when you're too distracted and you have too many things that are going on at one time and you're not actually fully focused on the group or on the subject or on the room, you will miss all the unlimited potential that comes at it. You will miss when someone wants to speak or ask a question. You will miss when you get off track with the content. You will miss that someone speaks, but the energy is really low. Or it creates a real serious energy in the room, which you could pick up to and mention, say that this was really serious. What's really behind that? Why did the whole group energy just drop? You can use those little signals all the time to surf the wave of the unknown when you're facilitating groups. But you have to be present and you have to be strong in your body. Your body is your strongest instrument when it comes to navigating the unknown, because you have all your knowledge, all your resources, everything is right here. And all you need is to become still to hear it in that moment. So I like to do an exercise with you. So this is another model that we're using in our trainings. It's whole person learning. And it refers to a couple of things. One is there's clear research that we don't have only brain cells in our head, right? There are brain cells that have been found in the stomach and also brain cells in the heart. And it's actually interesting that the research showed that the heart is taking more clues from the head than vice versa. So there are intelligent cells you have. So your body picks information up. But most of the time we work in our head, in particular now in this online forum as well, we just used to work, but our head is very, very limited. And the problem with the head is that it works with what we know and not what is the right thing. Because that's the heart. When we are connected to the people, to the purpose, to what you're trying to achieve here, to the importance of it, and the impact it might have, and the ripple effect it might have on the world and on the climate, etc., then you know that this decision is not right. But we have to be connected to the heart and to our gut. So I like to guide you through an experience. I want to say one more thing with that model. In our courses, we teach you some concepts and some principles like I have right now, right here. And you get them in your head, right? You have an understanding of the principles. And the principles I showed earlier, you probably thought like, oh, got that. I understand them. But then the next thing is to apply them. And that is experiencing those principles and actually doing them. And that's when your gut comes in, when you actually have an experience of the principle. And that's what we do in our trainings, to actually practically facilitate different scenarios. So you get a practical experience of what that feels like to do this intervention or to use the mindset of the unknown or whatever it is. And then it comes together in the heart, which often integrates the knowing and the experience. Like, okay, I know this about the unknown, and I have an experience of that in the unknown, and what do I actually really know? And this is what this circle is on the model. So you're moving constantly between what you know and what you experience, and what you integrated finally in your heart. So let's try that, shall we? So all you need is you need 4 post-it notes or pieces of paper. I'm gonna turn off the screen sharing so you can actually see me properly. And I like you to create some symbols. So one symbol is this one. Your first post-it note is a head. The second post-it note is a heart. The third post-it note is a stomach. And the last post-it note is the feet. So grab those, and then I'd like you to put them down like a whole person lying on the floor, and put them in order, of course. So put the person on the floor behind your screen. So all you need to do is to be in hearing distance with me, right? So you can just put it down. And then I'd like you to go and stand on that person. So I like you to start with the feet. So stand on the feet and connect with your feet for a second. So this is also the first step when you get frozen, freaking out in the unknown, is to get centered. And a very, very quick way of doing that is by connecting with your feet. Got both feet on the ground, and you could imagine to grow roots out of your feet down into the center of the earth. And just, you can close your eyes if you like, and just feel for a moment what that feels like, and breathe really deep into your feet. and become still in your body. And take one more breath. And then open your eyes, and then I'd like you to walk up to your head. And something happens when we're actually walking this. It just puts us, our body kind of moves with it. And if you don't feel anything, that's also okay. That means that's still new for you to be connected with your body, and you might need a bit of practice. So walk to your head, the post-it note with the head on it, and stand on that. And just connect with your head. And then ask yourself the question, what do I understand about how I respond when I'm in the unknown? What do I understand about myself, how I respond when I'm in the unknown? Just think about that for a second. And then I'd like to open your eyes if you have them closed. I'd like you to walk down to your gut. Stand on your gut and then feel into your stomach. Connect with your stomach for a moment. And then I'd like you to answer the question, what is my experience about how I respond when I'm in the unknown? What is my experience? How I respond when I'm in the unknown? Okay. And then go to your heart. Stand on your heart and feel into your heart space. And then answer the question, what do I know for certain about myself and on how I am in the unknown? What do I know for certain about myself, how I am in the unknown? Right. And then when you're ready, come back to your desk. And I like some hands up from people who had an insight or an aha moment, and they are willing to share that. I can unmute you so you can speak. Let's have some hands from people who had an insight or an aha moment doing this exercise. Okay, got no one putting a hand up. That's okay. That's one hand. Thanks, Rosie. Here we go. If you unmute yourself, you can share. What was your aha moment?
Hitting the heart, I realized that when I ground and stop the panic that rises, then I really trust myself that I'm very creative and I have ideas and I actually thrive in the swirl and the whirl of the unknown. That's a good place for me.
Awesome. How exciting is that? So this is a great memory. So you can use that when you get into the next spot, right? To breathe for a moment to get into your heart. Do you do that sometimes to center yourself? Is that one of your strategies?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Cool. And we got the Kareana as well. There we go. You can talk as well. Good to hear from you. What was your aha moment?
It was just same, I guess, in the heart space, just, recognizing that kind of freeze response and the fear that comes up, and rather than being in a space of love. And I just being aware that I tend to overwork in the headspace. So it was more just an awareness.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is a way of raising more awareness, right? Like when I did that earlier this morning or yesterday, it was about. Kareana, you want to say something more? Sorry.
No.
No. Okay.
Sorry, I meant to lower my.
No. When I did that, I realized that I have very different understanding between my head and my gut. I was like understanding that I freak out in the unknown, and my gut had a lot of experience of being really confident in the unknown and really innovative, and that gave me a certainty in my heart that I can handle this, that I have these two things, but actually I can handle this. So how else do you use this? So use your body when it comes to the unknown. Like you're gonna have to shift into another part. And if you don't have the answers, like I said earlier, it's like that principle of unlimited potential. Absolutely everything is here. And you use your attention to guide your focus to find another way. It's like using a torch in the dark. And as level 2 of our facilitator training exercises exactly that distinction muscle of facilitating the unknown. So you use your torch and look like, okay, what's happening? I'm lost. And you can use that to use your focus to move to your heart or to your gut to get some other answers. So you're not always responding just from the I know already head. Okay, time is to move on. So the next part I like to quickly talk about is the power of silence. And I want to just share some case studies of work I've been doing with some senior leaders in organizations. So, there we go, sharing. The power of silence. That is really, it sounds like a really simple principle, but it seems to be really, really hard for people who are not used to a lot of facilitation. I'm always sort of saying, as a facilitator, we should probably have the least amount of airtime, because the time is for the people in the group. So they should have all the airtime, and our interventions should be short, there should be questions, and then there should be silence. And you experienced that a little bit on this call with me. Because also for us as the speakers, our time sense is much, much faster. We're like on the spot and we're saying something like, well, should now a response, should be there. But the time sense for the people in the group, and that just happened right now, people took a while before they put their hands up. It's much, much slower. So the group response is slower. So we need to give people time, particularly when we ask a really strategic and powerful question, to give them time to navigate the unknown and then come up with a potential answer, what might be right, and to start exploring. So silence is a superpower when it comes to navigating the unknown. There have been 2 teams I've been working with, one in a large global organization, 200 people in 8 different countries, and they wanted to create a community of practice. And so every month they have one team leader to present some of the learnings from their section in their team, so they can really cross-fertilize the knowledge within the team. And I'm working with those team leaders to create engaging online discussion forums, and working with silence and asking questions and being, okay, coming from a corporate level, the speed of talking and the speed of action is incredible. And there is a concept called thinking time, which I don't actually have the name right now who invented that, but it's like there is no quality thinking time often. People are demanded to have quick answers because there is this pressure. And so I have been introducing the power of silence. And for them, it's super awkward to be silent. But when they are, the amount of responses they get from the people and the engagement and the value and the deep, meaningful conversations that are starting to happen in the group they are blown away at the end. It's like, I hardly did anything, and they all started talking, and they all had these amazing questions. Like, yeah, that's exactly the skill of bringing buy-in and giving people the opportunity to connect to their own meaning to the subject and to come in. So the power of silence. I also worked with a group of university lecturers who also through COVID had this big challenge to move into online. And same there too. I did actually a facilitation skills training with them as well, and learning how to use silence. They're excited. They get at the end really excited about, like, oh my God, I just was silent, and they just started to really get engaged. All the cameras are on at the end. They don't want to leave the meeting anymore. These are really great signs of your participants being engaged. And it comes a lot by giving people a bit of space to think and to contribute. So that is pretty much the content. I'd like to talk a little bit more about what comes from here and where could you go from here, and then we open up the floor for some questions. So I put it on the spreadsheet, on the PowerPoint. There are three offers that I have for you that you could jump into to learn more about. I will also send that around via email. The first one is a monthly leaders table that I'm starting to roll out. And this is it's a group of people coming together to discuss these questions. More interactive. It's like a meeting session where we look at questions and brainstorm answers. It will be a facilitated leaders group and a peer group. So if you like, you can join as a taster next week at the same time. It goes for 2 hours, depending how many leaders are joining, but we have roughly 2 hours, and you can have my time and ask me lots of questions, and we can all brainstorm some solutions and using like a mastermind to navigate the unknowns around some of those questions. The another option is to come and join me at a training, which is a smaller version of the facilitation diploma training that I've been doing. It's sort of a bit of a taster. It's delivered online. It's a small group, goes for 4 weeks, and it's only 2 hours a week. And you have the chance to actually be in a facilitator seat, get coaching by me, get feedback from the group, and to learn a bit about how you come across, what your strengths are, where you might like to have a look to work on, etc. It's really powerful training. You get lots of materials and a workbook, and yeah, so that's a potential. We're starting on the 12th of September. There's a cohort starting then, or another one on the 11th of October. If for any reason you feel like, oh, I could do some help within your team and help your like lead team of leaders in your organization, or even do some organizational interventions, happy to come into your organization to do some work with you to create a sustainable collaborative culture. And I offer you a 2-hour free consultancy for that if you like to have a chat with me and just brainstorm through your scenarios and some of your ideas of what you have. So now we come to questions. Bring on some questions. We have some more space for some questions. There's some useful resources here as well. The books, the foundation of this energy facilitation training, and there's also dancing at the edge, which I mentioned earlier. And you can take a screenshot of that. But yeah, bring some questions along, and I can bring you onto the panel, and we can have a proper conversation. There was one person I know had the question about, you completed the survey. I can't remember what your name was now, but if you're here, you said facilitation, mediation, and mediators and consultants are mostly engaged by an institution with an outcome to foster. That's what I mentioned earlier. You actually are, there's a known already, you have to fulfill a certain outcome. Communities want to be engaged, but often feel powerless to get their ideas and input well incorporated into that outcome or change that outcome. Yeah. How do you work with these clients to value the community voice and include it to enhance any outcomes? Is that person here who asked that question? Can I check? You put your hand up and I can bring you. No, or is anyone else who has a similar question? I can answer that question anyhow, even if that person is not here. It's very interesting. Community engagement is an industry for facilitators that I personally find extremely challenging, because it does often not allow a lot of freedom of choice. So real collaboration requires freedom of choice. And there is a terminology that I came across with that is starting to come into community engagement more and more, which is called free, prior, and informed consent. So the big, like the global company I work with, they have to do a lot of community engagement and look at social and environmental performance. And as part of the human rights, implementation of human rights, particular requirements for businesses have become much, much more focused on consensual decision-making with communities. So my short answer to this question is, I would not do that job because it is unethical. Within the ethics of facilitation, and there is actually a code of ethics for facilitators. If you look at the IAF, which is the International Association of Facilitators, they have a code of ethics for facilitators. And in there, it actually states that the group is declined and it's unethical to do something to the group that is determined from the senior leader, from the outside. So it's really, you really have to work with your own moral code. What is right for you? You know, like, is there still, I also often work with the client and tell them, you know, what is the real outcome do you want? We can't just manipulate the group to get your outcome. Do you really want the group to be fully collaborative and share power in the decision making? Then I can facilitate that. But if you just want to be autocratic and have power over and use facilitation to make it feel better, I'm not doing that job. So that's my answer. It's a very, very tricky space. I very much agree. And it's hopefully changing with the consent focus on consensual decision-making and community engagement. And hopefully it is changing. I know there are some requirements that are coming down from the Human Rights Department, international guidelines. The other challenge here that I have as a question is helping the conversation shift from stating an opinion and position to genuine listening and willingness to move towards something we all can live with. Okay, let me see this again. Helping the conversation shift from stating opinion and position to genuine listening and willingness to move forward, something we all can live with. Okay. Great. Yeah, of course, you have lots and lots of opinions in the groups, right? And there's something called like one skill, and I think that's another principle of navigating the unknown, is listening for alignment, listening for the common ground. So you as a facilitator can increase listening in the group by listening more yourself as well. Listening can also be a part of your culture right at the beginning, when you know you need that and you come into a group that has a lot of opposing opinions and there's a lot of heat of conflict. Really have a strong culture. What do we need here as behaviors to really have a safe and an effective and productive conversation? So listening in the culture, and then you can refer to and just say, thank you, we have heard your perspective several times. I like to hear other perspectives. Invite diverse perspectives from the room and trust the resources in the group with that. and listen for alignment. The other challenge is the desire to go directly into fixing and doing before identifying a shared purpose or problem, and power dynamics, including polarization, colonial approaches, and politicization. Yes, that's another thing as a facilitator, getting into fixing. Like I said earlier, the classic facilitator role is not to be involved in content. So you're not fixing. So it's like working with this uncomfortable space of not knowing and maybe failing, and asking the group for how can we solve that. When it comes from the group, there is much, much bigger buy-in. So you as a facilitator, you have to hold yourself back, and that's your ego. You need to control your ego. And like, okay, it's not about me knowing all the answers and fixing it. It's about empowering the group to find the answers and meeting the group where they are at as well. Cool. I think that's all of the question. Please, there's a little bit more time, or we can go into completion as well. I'm not sharing the screen anymore. That's great. Cool. All right. Well, then before we end, I would love to hear have some takeaways. So please, in the Q&A, put in one key takeaway you got today from this webinar. And after this webinar closes, you will also get a survey questionnaire, just a very short survey, just to give me some feedback. I'm really, really keen to hear your feedback and how you found this. Yeah, so what's your one takeaway you got from today? Put it in the Q&A. Cool, yeah, thanks, Suze. Heart sends more signals to the brain. Excellent. Silence is powerful, walking through the whole person to connect. Excellent. The head, heart, stomach, feel exercise was valuable. Excellent, Glenn. Yeah, moving through the body and feet, head, when feeling you are lost in the unknown. Great technique. Yeah. Well, thank you for all of you joining me. And yeah, if you want to know more, you know where you can go, and I sent you an email about those next steps as well, to have some more conversations with me. Okay, I see you on the next one. I'm planning to do these webinars on a regular basis to explore this subject, and I might see you on the next one. See you then. Bye.